Hello everyone, my name is Robert Kennedy Jr. and in 2001, on September 11th, I was at the World Trade Center, contrary to what most people realize. And many people have asked me why I speak exactly as I do, because they find it extremely odd or annoying. And contrary to popular belief, it's not because of the heavy amounts of pure-bloodedness that the Kennedy family has, but because of the fact that I was there, and it turns out that one of the many things that Big Pharma is behind is the 9/11 terror attacks on the World Trade Center in New York City back in 2001, on that tragic day, because it exposed countless tens of thousands, if not maybe even close to a couple of million of the New York City metropolitan area residents to mesothelioma via the sheer amount of asbestos that Big Pharma was helping cover up, alongside of the insurance fraud that was committed by the owner of the Twin Towers at the time. And if you really think about it, it makes perfect sense because of the fact that, frankly, the Twin Towers actually, if you really think about it, were like a voxel version of giant syringes for vaccinations. And it makes sense because it's not that far away from where one Rockefeller Center and one Rockefeller Way are, which, if you look back in history, it was the Rockefeller Foundation and the David Rockefeller Sr. that really hijacked and took over and made and built Big Pharma as we know it today, where they completely monopolized health and medicine and our school systems and apparently our development infrastructure ever since, and strangled it so that they could slowly strangle us to make more money off of our children. So if you donate to my presidential campaign, RFK Jr. 2024, today, you'll be able to get a commemorative coin that has the Twin Tower attacks on it on one side, and the other side is a vaccination syringe with the do not crossed out circle on it. And with this coin, not only will you help fund the campaign for my presidency, but you will also, in fact, make sure that you entirely are helping fund our fight against Big Pharma and exposing them for 9/11 and all the other things that they and the government have been hand in hand covering up. As your president, I will make sure to prove that in the redaction of my uncle John F. Kennedy's assassination documentation from the CIA and the FBI, that in fact it will prove to the world that Big Pharma was also behind his assassination. It's all connected. If you just look at the web, it all makes sense. And I am ensuring you that if you donate to my fund and make me president to this day, it will help us reveal the truth, not only about that, but about all the other redactions that our government has had and the media has acted as the mouthpieces for their propaganda machines for. And if you really want something to think about and chew on, think about this. If you donate to my funds and vote for me for presidency, when I become president, I will become your vaccination and this country's vaccination against corruption and dishonesty and distrust and everything else that you no longer trust in the media or the government. If you actually pay attention to the analytics and the data from the reputable sources, Americans don't trust their mainstream media, nor do they trust their government or their president almost at all to tell the truth or to do the job that they're made to do. But as president, I will change that. I am on a absolute tirade for truth, and I will make sure to expose and reveal all of the truth that's been hidden for decades, maybe even over a century, from you, the citizens of the United States of America. If you make me your president, I will become the vaccination that this nation has sorely needed. Now, I'm sure a lot of you think that I am bullshitting you, and I am lying right now, saying that it's because of mesothelioma from 9/11 and not because of major pure-bloodedness of the Kennedy family tree and genetic history, then I assure you that this is actually the lie that you have had propagated and indoctrinated into your minds as citizens, that it is from pure bloodedness and not from inbreeding, definitely not that, in the Kennedy line, that caused me to speak like this, because we all supposedly have major health issues, but in reality it's not caused by a genetic quirk on family line, and thus causing a genetic disposition in regards to my neurological situation within my body that I can't help. It's actually entirely because of mesothelioma and not because of a neurological issue due to inbreeding, pure-bloodedness in my family's line. I assure you, it is absolutely the factually correct truth and not at all a lie. In fact, we maybe have a distant relation to the Habsburgs of Austria, but we certainly are no Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Eleanor Roosevelt being second cousins. If you do not believe that, I do have people who can convince you and persuade you to believe otherwise via showing you the light and to the truth of my family's heritage, which you have to accept, or else I'm sure you're just going to unfortunately meet a sad end cognitively in terms of your ability to find the real truth in the world through all the information overload. Quite frankly, I'm kind of appalled that there's still so much negative speak about my family line, and especially my Uncle John, because quite frankly, he really didn't have any negative connections to the mafia. It was his parents who had a minor connection, but it was actually more as a victim turned into a cleverly flipped situation that allowed them to survive instead of being taken out by the mob. And I assure you that if you believe that my family has connections to the mob, I can assure you that that is also due to Big Pharma poisoning your mind to the extent that you can no longer understand and comprehend basic truths that are right there in front of you. It's the vaccines. They've gotten to your mind and it has made it partially melt inside of your head so that you can no longer comprehend basic factual information that is presented to you in front of you, including in a physical material form. And in fact, at this point, to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Biden's issues are really cognitively due to just being one giant human vaccination up in his head. And thus, it's not actually dementia or Alzheimer's. It really isn't his fault. It's actually just because he was stupid enough to buy into the Big Pharma agenda and take their money and get their vaccinations. And thus, it's literally melted his mind and he no longer has one left inside of his head. That's not political slander before my election cycle to try to get a upper hand. That's just simply an observation. I wouldn't be surprised if it turned out to be factually correct. I would love to actually see a study done on his cadaver. Just remember, if you want to know and get the full truth and be able to trust in the presidency and the government again, along with your mainstream media, donate to my fund at RFK Jr. for President.com today, and you will get the commemorative coin with the 9/11 site that gave you mesothelioma on one side, and the vaccination syringe with the no circle on the other, so that half of those proceeds will go to my presidency, and the other half will of course go directly into the pockets of directly against Big Pharma and expose them for what they really are doing. I am Robert Kennedy Jr., and I'm running for president in 2024.